This is the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Matt. In this podcast, we're going to discuss growing companies, automation and manufacturing,
and how we're building the lives and businesses we want to see in the world.
My week's been pretty good. It's forecasting is what I'm on. So about once every 3 months, I'll go through and we'll forecast what sales look like, what we're aiming to get done, what our resources in terms of labor are looking like. So that's kind of what I'm starting to plan through. I think that's probably what I was doing last week on the call. Is it just as the team grows, the amount of forecasting is getting more and more intensive. So last week was very financials based, and then this week is very team and labor based.
That's actually been a lot of my week too, trying to figure out the forecasts. We've grown to a point now that it's definitely a lot more serious of a concern. If you have an up month or a down month, a much bigger effect when you're burning 100, 125, 150K a month as opposed to 40 or 50.
Yeah, it's definitely impactful. And I mean, it's just a bigger number. It's just managing that larger number and making sure you're knowing how those things are impacting, or you don't have cascading events is really what's big for, what I'm watching for. You can always have, all right, this happened. Okay, so now I got to make sure that we keep these things on track.
And you have to be like a quarter in advance now too, right?
Exactly. I mean, we're forecasting for the bank till like 27. So they're asking us for we're getting the new machine coming in, that mold's done, but they're always asking for, all right, what are your forecasting looking for? You have your metrics that they want to see what you're doing, and you're holding to past forecasts too. And 3 years has been what they've requested.
They're doing that on a machine loan, or is it like a line of credit and other stuff too?
Line of credit. So we've had a line of credit for several years. So basically they just always want to see our performance, because as we get larger projects, I continue to up our line of credit. So we have, if we need to leverage that to that point, we have it there. Thankfully we haven't needed it to a level that we continue to have it in place, but you want to have that protection in case the event occurs.
Do you have any rules? I'm going to have X months of cash on hand, or any of these hard line in the sand thresholds that you try to set as a barrier?
That's a good question. So you have your savings account that has X in it. That's kind of your one line of defense. You then have your line of credit. That's another line of defense. And then you have your operating account is one of it. That's been one of those that I think a lot of people have their hard, fast rules around that. What's yours? I mean, I'd be curious to hear what yours is.
Our hard and fast rule is 1 month cash on hand at all times, liquid in a bank account. And from there, that's kind of the line in the sand of we can't maintain that, and I'm going to slow the growth until we can, build the war chest a little bit more.
Yeah, that makes sense. That seems like a solid way to go about it. I mean, I know if I look back to, and when we were in the basement, it's like, holy crap, we got a year of cash on hand at all time. It was like, maybe we're growing as fast as we should have or could have, but I got to say that growing slower out of the gate was very beneficial for us in building that liquidity, because that leverage is very powerful as we decide to put our foot on the gas.
Especially in the last year, I put my foot on the gas so aggressively that, year to date, we're pretty much break even because everything has just gone straight back into business. Where, okay, we're going to spend $75,000 on a new space. We're going to lease it. We're going to epoxy the floors. We're going to get the electrical, new machine. And
go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, now I'm starting to pull back and say, okay, I'm going to make sure we've grown enough that, we're kind of sitting around 1 month cash, which is not ideal. And especially now we've added all these, various product lines and SKUs, we have well over $100,000 just in inventory sitting here. And that's really resulted in me saying okay, we got to start profiting month to month and grow a little bit slower. I have no plans on trying to double the workforce over the next 6 months I did in the last 6.
Yeah, that makes sense. It also comes down to what your personal finances are too, because our finances are so tied to ourselves. And then, what tax advantages you had. So we could go down a whole business rabbit hole here of what your tax advantages, because really at the end of the day, you want to break even. You don't want to pay taxes.
To an extent.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you have liquidity to keep doing what you need to do. So it's always this balancing act that, this is the reason I'm also forecasting this time of the year very in depth is I'm trying to understand where we're going to end in December, because this is also when I'm starting to talk to our own every year is at the end of this month on how we're going to plan the end of the year on the way we want to spend, or sometimes timing of projects. All right. If I delay the purchase of X robots or X large capital expenditures and kick that to next year, does that make more sense? Or should I do it this year and maybe take a risk of buying that stuff over? That's just kind of the conversation, because you can kind of swim that needle.
Oh yeah, and you can optimize, but you have to make sure you don't. I put the company in a position where I've over optimized before, and then one thing goes wrong. If you've over optimized from a financial engineering perspective, one thing goes wrong, you're fine. But when two or three things go wrong, especially when you have project values in hundreds of thousands of dollars, just one person not paying, a second person not paying on time can put you into the point where you just don't have remotely enough liquidity that you're going to be comfortable. And I've never been in an existential, crisis of like, oh, the company has a negative cash balance, but being too aggressive with that optimization in the past has left me, financially uncomfortable, where we had hundreds of thousands of dollars in assets that could have been purchased a little bit later if we would have just taken, a 25% tax hit to roll over the cash. And there are several points I wish we would have done that.
Yep. And that's a solid conversation you've got to have with your team and yourself too on those timing. And that's things that having those conversations as we've grown too, I found being more and more open with the team about that. Like, hey guys, I know we talked about buying, we just had this actually a couple of weeks ago. We got to buy a $70,000 robot. And it's all right. We were planning on buying X date. Let's talk about this. How would this impact our timelines too? If we do X, Y, Z, and it was like, all right, we're going to get too tight. We were talking about kicking it into next year. Was a potential discussion. It's like, all right, that's just going to squeeze the team. We're going to stick to the plan. And so it's having those conversations on how it impacts financials. I've found that the team is more open to it than, I would have thought several years ago, because it is just, and we've got engineers on the team, they get it. It's a simple calculation.
All right, so are you open with your financials with your whole team, or just a subset of your team? What's your approach to that?
What level of financials?
Like whatever level you want, top line revenue, P&L. I'm just curious, like what your approach of how much and, what cadence and who you share things with internally.
So we share our entire bids with our team. So we got to the point where what the project's bid at, we share. So they see what the material budget is, what the labor budget is, how that carries through what the charter that is on it. We found just giving that information is invaluable. So they can actually properly lay out timelines, properly select components. Because the other thing that can play into that is sometimes people can get cost effective, if you will, on part selections because they just don't know. Right. Or they spend the money on the wrong things just because they don't have the information. So if you show them what was budgeted and what was anticipated, now there's kind of like an area to live within.
Yeah, you stop the mechanical engineers from fidgeting all the money away. Because there's that tendency to buy the fun, cool $70,000 robot, even at the $20,000 SCAR will do.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I would say it's been more on the other way. We're in Wisconsin, kind of the capital of conservativeness. So, it's all too easy to say what's the most cost effective solution rather than actually buying the more premium solution that we might get the labor back in. Or just buying the components rather than trying to engineer the solution has been kind of the learning experiences that we've gone through to increase those efficiencies. To sometimes just turning the machines or projects faster with more purchased components makes more sense.
So, backtracking a little bit, as far as like, your financials, like at the P&L level, you guys review that like monthly, weekly? Is that just a math thing, or is that a, develops leadership team or somewhere in between?
P&L is just a math thing at this point. I'd like to get further into sharing some of that. I think there's some understanding of how we'll go about that. I still have to figure that question out. What about yourself?
Yeah. So it used to be just a Michael thing. and we moved it to, it gets discussed just with the leadership team. So I like the idea of, going at a whole project breakdown and saying, oh, delivering that to the team as well. So because I definitely get engineers who are being too conservative or too aggressive with, what component selection, what approaches they're taking. I really like that idea. But broad strokes, the leadership team, which is four of us, we just go through the P&L and I say, hey, we're spending too much with this vendor. Our COGS are too high, our advertising budget's too low, and we try to find the balance. Like we've had enough kind of break even months that now I'm trying to push towards, okay, like, IMTS is coming, obviously. We expect that to be a big influx of business, but I'm starting to kind of draw the line in the sand of like, I want 10% EBITDA every month because, if we continue to grow on this trajectory, a line of credit and debt can only do so much if you're growing 15% a month. So, our percentage growth needs to be below our percentage profit, like, by 5 or 10% to stay on the trajectory.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've started moving to budgeting. So I'm seeing, all right, we're going to start doing more budgeting for marketing, more budgeting for C&C department, and give that department free route. I mean, our team's really good at what they do. I trust them. So just saying, all right, guys, you're getting X dollars to spend on tooling or X dollars to spend on ads. As long as we're hitting the goals, keep executing is kind of
well, that's funny because that's exactly where we are too. We just kind of moved the threshold from, just straight intuition to actually putting budgets in place and mid-process.
We finally have enough information. I think both of our reached that point where like budgets a couple of years ago would have made like no sense. Like it was such squishy math and like you said, intuition running or, one big project comes in and all of a sudden everything changes. Now it's getting to the point where, all right, we're trying to hit these metrics. We're growing on this so we can budget them.
Yeah, definitely. I would encourage you, if you have a couple people you trust or, it seems like you're going to be at the cusp of, having, Matt and everyone else into probably putting it, a layer of leadership in between. If not within the next 6 months, within the next couple of years, I would encourage you to find one or two people you trust even and just, show the P&L to them. The people who are kind of, whether it's your right-hand man or, head of department XYZ, because at least what I've seen starting to do it, people are far more receptive to it than you would think, and appreciate the clarity much more than you would think. And it gets everyone, in much better alignment, much faster than kind of these overarching, oh, these times are really good or, oh, these times are really bad. There's real concrete numbers and you get everyone going in a certain direction.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. The only other people I share it with right now is I have a board of advisors. So, the board is a group of people that have grown significant businesses, all north of 100 million in revenue. And so I meet with them usually on an every month basis, if not every other month. And we'll go through the financials and discuss challenges or projections, what we're seeing.
Like a month-to-month profit number or a annual profit number? Are you just aiming to break even? Like, are you targeting growth? Like, what's your short and long-term trajectory?
So it's a good question. It's a really good. For me, this is a long-term generational solution. I have no intention of ever exiting the business. I don't need to pull cash out of this business or a large number to pay my bills and do what I want to do. I also have some other businesses outside of this. So it's, for me, it's how do we grow this business without having to feed this business has been my decision. So I'm fine if we're at a break even at the end of the year, as long as we're seeing growth trajectory. And we're, I don't want to see a loss because I don't want to feed into the business, but how do we maximize that growth is the big thing for me over the next 10 years is really my.
Well, I guess there's kind of two things, there's like strategy and tactics. So part of the question is like, okay, long-term, you want to be still at the helm of the business. You want it to be bigger. It's definitely worthwhile. And this is like a big part of the EOS philosophy is like, say what those things are of, for us, it's like, okay, well, in 10 years, I want to be at 50 employees, for instance.
Is that
you know, you
your
start there, but then especially with EOS, it tries to break it down into like 90-day chunks. And like for me right now, part of the 90-day chunks are, you know, we're gonna get a budget implemented, and then on in the last month of, you know, the fiscal quarter, we're gonna try to be, you know, at that 10% EBITDA, and hopefully maintain that, you know, month to month, so that, yeah, we're not feeding into the business. But I'm also concerned of how do we, you know, grow the business now that we have double the expenses to have double the cash on hand, right?
Yeah,
That's a
that's
challenge with breaking even that I've seen.
say that part again.
Well, at least for us, especially with the amount of inventory we carry to try to deliver things, you know, as quickly as possible, the challenge with breaking even at growing, you know, 10, 15% a month is that, you know, you're just breaking even at the end of the day, you know, 6 months of doing this, your overall top line revenue has doubled, your expenses have doubled, but your cash on hand stays the same because there's no profit, you know, going into the war chest. And
That's where you have assets.
oh yeah, of course. But
Like
how
now you
liquid are the assets? Are you borrowing against them? Are you leveraging debt?
exactly. So now you have your depreciable assets. So now you can still build your war chest while still being in a break even. So now it's a P&L and a balance sheet question.
And that's a good point. I mean, maybe I should be more aggressive with how, you know, we use the balance sheet. You know, actually take the time to open up a line of credit, and really go and push the dial that way. But I still think I want to profit at least a little. Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's you want to do some form of profit, and it's the way you would look at the profit because there's profit of cash growth or the profit of what you're peeling out. You know,
Right.
are you wanting the profit to peel out of the business?
Well, no. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like, you know, I actually pulled, when I was running more of a job shop engineering consulting business, I pulled a ton of money out of the business just to do stupid shit of like, oh, you know, I need to buy a BMW. I need to buy this, you know, fancy, stupid watch. And, you know, I realized after a long enough time of doing this and eventually moving to a different business that now, you know, I actually enjoy, I was just buying my happiness. And ironically, you know, even though I'm engaged and have a place, and I actually used to live in my old shop, um, you know, even after doing all these other things that cost lots of money, I actually spend significantly less, than I did when I was just running a tiny 4-person job shop. Um, so yeah, it's not even that I want to peel back. It's that I want more of a safety net. And honestly, I think it's just a thing for me. I want to get the stress level down because growing at 15% a month has just been brutal.
Oh yeah,
And I'm kind of like, I want to slow down. And I think a big thing for me is I want to make sure we get to like the best in the world at in-machine automation. And I feel like the amount and speed we've ramped up has, you know, led to some, you know, issues here and there or products that could have been better. And I'm kind of trying to put a pause on, you know, hiring and growing too fast to make sure everything can be the best it can be.
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna step back on the. I'm fine if we're at a break even is what I'm really saying.
Yeah.
The goal, if like you said, build that cash at that point. So it's how you balance that on, like you said, your cascading risks. This is an interestingly deep conversation to try and go down without turning this into a lot of rabbit holes to really
Yeah.
kind of wrap your head around it.
But
Uh,
seeing and hearing you talk through all of it, I think a lot of the reason I'm in this position of like, you know, oh, we don't have a line of credit built out to the level we should. You know, oh, we are thinking of things slightly differently. I think a lot of it is because, you know, we jumped from, you know, a $60,000-$70,000 a month business to a $170,000 to $200,000 a month business over the span of 6 months. And I'm still like catching up almost to where the
are you,
business is.
so are you saying that that's what your standard recurring is? So you're selling that much in products, or that's
Well,
what
that's
you're
like the
seeing
total
months?
business, right? And the big priority right now has been to shift, you know, the revenue away from the consulting, where we're doing these, you know, large engineering consulting projects, you know, more similar in the size and scope of what Develop is doing, to getting to more of just pure CNC in machine automation. So, you know, we're trying to turn the dials,
Yeah.
from, you know, getting it to, you know, 30-40% of about where it is right now being automation work. Eventually get that to 100. And the goal is by the end of the year, that number is 50-60%.
Okay. Understood.
But it's been complicated to do that transition, and everything's just been so fast. And I think a lot of I'm mentally catching up to running a company, you know, with another layer of management, doing systems and, And I'm still figuring all of it out.
Yeah, you're not going to figure it out overnight either. I mean, everybody wants to solve all these business problems overnight, or you make a change and you think it's going to occur like tomorrow. Like sometimes you just gotta let them play, and it can take 3 months, 6 months, a year for some of those decisions
Mhm.
to play out and give you the data that you need to move the needle again. Like that's patience is probably the hardest thing. And I think we've talked about this in the past ones because I know I lack a lot of patience. My dad always jokes about it. He doesn't have patience either. He's made the joke that, someday I'll inherit his and maybe the two of us will have enough. But it's like it's so
Yeah.
tough for us as business owners because it's like, I want this done now, but it's like just breathe.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely a victim of my own ambitions. And sometimes it makes things go up really fast, but sometimes it creates problems and results in band-aid fixes. And I'm trying to force myself as I get older to be more disciplined, slow and steady growth. And at the end of the day, like for me, my mindset has really shifted to everything is about getting the customer a great result and,
Plus,
grow as fast as you can where that's still achievable.
yeah, there's two things that are number one or number two. It's your team and your
Mhm.
customers, and we're always going to come in behind those two.
Oh yeah, and the team is number one. I don't know if you share the same perspective. Like the internal people here who spindle grippers or the consulting or whatever it is, this stuff is their lifeblood. They always have to come before our customers. And I sorry if you're listening, customers, but the reality is that like those people are it's a team, not a family. I kind of go by that moniker, but
That's it, because I say the exact same thing here. We're very well aligned there. There's no unconditional love here. We're all expecting each other to perform, and we're tasked with, certain responsibility.
because I kind of believe like a great team will lead to a great outcome to the customer. And the reality too is that, over time we become a lot more selective with what customers we take, what kind of parts that they're running. Are they a production shop? Are they, a 3-person job shop? And we've really tried to narrow into who is our customer that we know we can slam dunk it every time. And, once we're slam dunking those 99% of the time, now we broaden out. Whereas I think when we started out, we would sell a spindle gripper or a turnkey to anybody who raised their hand and said, I want to try this.
Yeah, that's how business starts. I mean, I call that diving for dollars. Maybe I heard that somewhere, but I mean, that's when we first started. That was, yeah, we dove for dollars. Anything that came in the door, yeah, we do that. And it's like, you look back and it's like, why did
Yeah,
we do that?
a hundred
But
percent. Yeah.
yeah, as you figure out who your customers are and who you can best serve. I mean, we can only serve so many people well.
Last finance question, I promise.
Okay,
Are you guys
let's hear.
on cash based or accrual based accounting?
We're on cash base.
Okay, we are too. And I was wondering if that was leading some of the like, difference in intuition of like, borrowing against your assets or saying, hey, month to month, we're putting more and more money into these assets and, we can just up our line of credit and continue operating that way on I was just
Yeah.
curious.
Well, and we could go down a couple things. So we bought our building, so we pay ourselves rent. So there's some aspects there. We have the building then to depreciate. Uh, like I said, I have a family farm that I also own, that I have assets there that I can depreciate out. So now that comes into a tax play that I can use that to grow, develop. So there's other things come into play there on my personal finances, if you will, that can develop some leverage to go faster. Or if we have a positive year, I can leave that cash there and not try and spend it on other things. I can appreciate those long-term assets. So that's how I've gone on it. So we can build the war chest without getting huge tax complications.
Right. That makes total sense.
Yeah. I can
And
do it on there. Oh, wow,
I'm suffering from, the mistake of being born in 1990.
what,
I'm just 10 years behind, the having, assets or the various things like the basically everything I have is 100% in the company, right?
yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. I have the building, my house,
Mhm.
family farm now. there's different things there, but you also have some unique, like, I wish I still had the energy that I
Oh,
did about before. So like
it's a
that,
double-edged
that's what,
sword, and everyone's going to complain.
yeah. So I think there's pros and cons to it. You're gonna see those advantages, but we both have similar sized businesses. So you're definitely doing something very well here. So don't cut yourself short or feel like there's any loss there.
That's very true.
Oh,
Cool. I
so
know
lots of that.
I know we chatted a little bit about marketing. Do you want to talk about that topic?
Yeah, where do we want to go? We were talking about video, media production. We had a short call yesterday about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, like we can kind of recap the short call. So I was asking, hey, how do you edit these videos? Your videos are way better than us. And I think we kind of steered into content strategy, and your idea of running either like, a different division or a spin-off business that developed focused on marketing.
Yeah. So we both had kind of conversations too about styles. So developed taking the approach of having ideally very refined pieces, and you're saying, how do I hit more and then refine them later? Which I really like your approach too. So how's that working?
Well, so I guess when I called you, I was hoping you would say like, oh yeah, we have a video editor. He's on Upwork. We pay him $20 an hour, and he does this. And obviously that's not what you said. It was more, oh, we have a full-time guy and put a ton of staff and energy time behind this. And like with our website, that's one of the places where I feel like we have just such a slam dunk, like the best value. We have a Shopify guy, we pay him like $20 an hour or so. He's in India, he's super hardworking. And literally I send him like PowerPoints of this is how I want the website to look. This is the new page I want to create. And he just does it, and it's super cost effective. We spend maybe, $1,500 a month with him to make all these changes at a coding level. And it's awesome. And I was hoping you would say that for like the video editor level. Because right now, like I'm editing the videos myself. I've tried, finding a bunch of video editors. We've tried a bunch of marketing firms. And really where I've landed is, okay, well, I'm just going to put out more lower quality content and then try to optimize later.
So I should clarify on the person that we hired. It was actually a summer for an intern full time. They're with us through school. He's actually a high school student.
That's awesome.
So we post the job just before summer, looking for an intern. Ideally, a transition to full time is what we were looking for. And the best applicant was a high school student. His portfolio was as good as people that were in their third or fourth year as a 4-year degree. And it was like, all right, we got to give this guy a shot. Like he's just killing it with this. So now he still comes in after school and on a weekend a little bit. We're actually doing we got a fun video we're going to be scouting for on Saturday. We're going to be kind of doing Made in America spin, which I'm excited to toy around and see where that goes. But that'll be a fun one.
I mean, that's still awesome. And then do you want to talk a little bit about your idea for the develop marketing spinoff?
Oh gosh, that's I probably shouldn't say it out loud that I want to start another business or anything. It definitely will probably have to be down the road, but like we chatted about, I had a few careers or kind of things that I wanted to do in life. Engineering was at the top of the list, but something that's always been a passion or that I wanted to do was something with thing. It's really weird. I think when actually Amanda, my wife, she asked me, and that had to be like 8 years ago or so. She was like, you ever had something else to do? What would it have been? I'm like, it's really interesting. And I caught her completely off guard when I said acting was like the second thing I'd wanted to do. So the starting to get where I'm going is a media company has been kind of a passion thing that would be really just fun for me. And I'm loving doing this video. Like when I actually am not pulled into P&Ls, balance sheets, or sales calls, like I used to say, all right, sales is really my focus of this. And I'm going, all right, like you had said, hire a salesperson. And we had just done that right before you said it is. I'm becoming more and more open to pulling more out of the sales and focusing on the marketing and development of the business. Cause I'm having a blast.
Yeah, well, and marketing like destroys sales, like from a perspective of like long term. You think about like a company like Nike or Adidas, and their names not because a sales guy called you on the phone, right? You know the names because of the massive marketing budgets behind it, the kind of broad stroke advertising, and that's a hard balance I had to figure out how to strike because our space, like I said on, one or two podcasts ago, it's just weird. Selling high value B2B industrial automation, products or integrated solutions. How do you market effectively to that niche of a target group, especially when the keywords are so incredibly expensive? And at least in the short term, we've been kind of like 50-50 marketing sales. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if you can get the marketing engine to churn and, if you can succeed in that, you want to put 90% of that money into marketing.
Yeah. It's fun. How do you define your marketing budget though?
Oh God. Well, and a lot of this is really fuzzy because, we grew the business really rapidly. A lot of that was, some of these engineering consultant clients that, kind of got, the projects had the dials turned of, we want to go twice as fast and spend twice as much money. At the same time, we were trying to ramp up the automation business. And, I made the decision, hey, long term, the automation business is my priority. It's where our growth is. It's where our future is. And the consulting, we're going to eventually ramp down to zero. And, with that decision came figuring out a whole new business and business model, right? And ironically, like the automation business model has turned out to be much more similar to the consulting business model than I had anticipated, because a lot of these are $20,000-$30,000 sales, as opposed to, I think when I first envisioned the automation product line, it was like, hey, I'm going to sell you a $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 Hanukkah burr and a $2,000 vice and make the system, easy to integrate so that people were buying widgets. So the kind of the way that I've thought about everything has changed. And, honestly, I kind of entered into this new industry and had to figure out all these things simultaneously. So we started out by just pouring money into pay-per-click. And, before March, it really was $10,000 in, $30,000 out. It was just pour money in and the ad creative was okay. And it just came back to us. And then, the adpocalypse happened with Apple. And that just, ever since then, we've still been pouring on the order of, $10,000 a month into pay-per-click. And really just this last couple of months, now that we've been trying to cut costs to be profitable, just now we've made the decision, like, pay-per-click, we've tried everything. We've tried all these firms. We've tried messing with every variable, with Google, with Meta. We've tried every type of campaign. It just doesn't work like it used to. And, now that we're going into IMTS, we're really saying, God, we hope IMTS really works, because if it does, and if it is a slam dunk, I think that'll probably become our primary marketing method.
I'm really excited to hear how it goes for you, because trade shows have been positive for us on the service side. We tried it a little bit on our products and it was a challenge. We were also smaller. We also didn't know how to sell and market too well. So we were learning things. So I'm really excited to see how this goes for you, because I think it can go well. And because we're seeing the same points on the pay-per-click, we're potentially going to turn off Google ads.
I Googled something, or like CNC machine tending automation, because I just keep track of, various clicks, and your ad came up.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting that the machine tending our ad agency. I should actually talk to him, because that's not one of our targets.
Yeah, I mean, the way, are you phrase matching it? Are you exact matching? There's so many little things, but we haven't turned everything off, but we pulled back from $15,000 a month to the order of like $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and it really shifted focus to SEM.
Wow.
Of search engine marketing, where it's videos, articles, get the organic traffic that you don't have to pay for.
Yeah, the biggest portion of our budget for the life of Develop has been SEO. So it started down this road, would have been one on SEO stuff where I was just writing stuff, people on the team are writing stuff, we'd send it up if I were to get polished, targets and keywords, and it worked. And then we just have continued every year. We basically just double down on that strategy. And that's what's taken our website where it is. People don't realize how many words are on a website. We're probably going to write 250,000 words on our website by the end. To me, that's just insane.
And that's, I think, got to become a bigger priority for us as well. I mean, we've been so into the trade show thing, but, in the off months where there's not a show to go to, I'm assuming that does become our marketing strategy. Still kind of a wait and see.
SEO takes a long time though. The trade shows, you're better off. You can find trade shows around you and hit them up. You're talking 3 months if you're lucky, if not a year for all that SEO to play out and optimize.
And that's what was so beautiful early on about doing just pay-per-click ads is, we go throw in $8,000 and we just convert the 24 grand of Shopify revenue. Now for context, we don't even run 24 grand of Shopify revenue, but, we run considerably more revenue through the side of the business in these $20,000 turnkeys. So, because our advertising hasn't been as effective, it's kind of led to, a shift internally of a focus on, turnkeys, bigger customers, bigger wins, which I think is a smart strategic decision. But I guess I would have liked to make that decision, not because, the marketing stopped working the way it was working, but rather from hey, this is a better, business approach. We were almost kind of forced into taking that angle.
How many times did it happen though? In your how many times did you actually get the choice to choose where, or get the choice on how you want to do something, or the market just decided things for you?
And even with us, like the 2-op automation palette, still like it's our biggest selling package, be it self-implementations or, our own implementations where we're, doing the semi-turnkeys. Whatever it is about that thing, doing first op plus second op with a part flip, integrated into one little unit. People love that thing. And,
awesome.
It's awesome, but we have lots of awesome stuff.
I just like watching the thing. Like I probably watched your Instagram thing like 100 times. Like it's just great.
But what is crazy to me, because like the easiest thing, but where I would think, especially for like a job shop or, even aerospace shops might start, is by saying, hey, like, let's buy the $5,000 one-op package. And then, when we're doing hundreds of parts, just doing an op0 dovetail, we can automate all of it. It'll take 30 minutes to do. But for whatever reason, we don't have a problem selling these 2-op, pallets, and where, the hardware costs, once you've added everything up, including all the integration stuff, it's 12 or 13 grand. But, we like really struggle to sell a much simpler, easier to use solution for the entry level of the market. Because, or no, right. It might just be like, when we get to the 2-op stuff, it's fully unique. Like we are literally the only option to do that. But I'm not totally sure.
Is it also just the way that people want a machine? I mean, I know when I set up a lot of vertical machining centers for parts, it was, all right, I want to be able to run op 1 and 2 in one go. So every single time I open the door, I've got X number of parts coming out the door. Like that was just a workflow that was just ingrained into the process of one significant shop that I helped set up. And that was the way everything ran. So I could just see that's where, when your stuff stood out to me, I could just see that that's the perception that it was like, all right, I want an AT in my workflow where.
When it gets everyone a single piece flow and for the right client with the right job, it's always a slam dunk. The thing is that we have a lot of, especially like the smaller shops who come to us who I wouldn't say are like our ideal client. I try to run them into this little $5,000 package of like, hey, this thing's perfect for you. And for whatever reason, we have a much harder time closing that client where they could get tremendous value out of that, $5,000. Then we do, closing the mid-sized client on a $20,000 fully automated turnkey for their part.
Yeah. So you're finding out who your value props are. And I mean, have you ever thought of just like how many of those do you even sell it, and thought about just getting rid of those SKU?
Well, the thing is like, the 2-op palette, like, we have 75 SKUs or whatever, but a lot of the parts are actually interchanged. So like on the 2-op palette, we take our 75 or 100 millimeter vise, we bolt it to the base, and and that whole unit, is a SKU. And like we have a standalone part flipper and a part flipper that's again integrated in the 2-op palette base, which by the way has made making inventory management of the individual components a complete nightmare. Because we have all this crosstalk between SKUs, all these bits and bobs that we're putting together. But nevertheless, we say we have 75 SKUs and there's probably only like 200 unique part numbers, excluding like screws and hardware.
Yeah. We said there'd only be one more financial question, so I'll ask one more. Inventory, that's financial too. And you're managing that. Are you managing that in QuickBooks? Or are you still doing it in a spreadsheet?
So we have struggled with that. And as we've scaled the automation business, it's been a real problem. And in the short term, we would run Kanban, where, you run out and then you make the components. We do outsource a lot of our, components to like local shops, because we really realized where we make the most money, where we bring the most value, it's engineering, it's intellectual property. It's not, hitting a button. And we love our automation products, and we used to insist on making every single part automatically. Now we try to find, vendors and then get them to run our stuff on our systems. But sometimes they go for that. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But, at the end of the day, we've really shifted to having as many parts as we can efficiently make, as, outside processes done to the fullest level of completion, because it lets our internal overhead be less dependent on making those components. And it lets us move a lot faster and pour more money into R&D. But it comes with the flip side of now, we'll build 100 units worth of parts where there's serious, cash tied up in inventory. In a given, month, we might have $30,000 of inventory in Vices. We might have $20,000 of inventory in Gripper products.
Have you done a forecast of all your inventory for the next 12 months, what you think them go to?
Well, yeah, and that's part of the thing is, I don't even know how to forecast a lot of it, because even the business, in terms of, are we selling, widgets, spindle grippers, or are we selling integrated packages? Has
Just look at your core inventory ones.
Mhm.
Have you looked at that, like the 80/20 in your inventory forecast?
Well, I think part of it is like, we talked earlier about, intuition versus budgets. And, we have started budgeting company wide for a while now. And we've been trying to shift the percentage of revenue coming from consulting into coming from automation products. Now, the problem is like the automation stuff, we've only really been doing it for, 2 years. And because of that, there's not as much historical data. And, and I don't really understand the trends. Like, I know kind of, I don't know if you're feeling this, but at least in the CNC industry, at least right now, there's definitely a slowdown. And how that affects things, how that affects our sales, I don't know. We're kind of this fast ROI, cost effective, automation system. Whether or not, money being tighter for the end user means that they want to, optimize, labor efficiency and buy our products, or whether it means they just want to be super conservative and not do anything. I don't know yet. And because of that, a lot of this stuff is just forecasted straight on intuition. And for inventory, we've just used Kanban, because it's like, oh, it ran out, and we changed the Kanban number as it's running out too much.
The reason I ask about the forecast inventory, this brings me to something that's frustrated me a lot in the manufacturing space is the manufacturers always get squeezed. So we always say, all right, we did our Kanban system. I want to do another order, and they get a short-term notice, and that's been kind of the way of it. And then if business slows upstream, they just get squeezed out, but they're always like, all right, we need you to go faster. We need you to lower your prices, but there's no long-term contracts.
Right.
So that, or if you knew your long-term, you could do blanket POing. And if you set up a good relationship with somebody, they might be willing to carry that inventory for you. If you're saying, I know I'm going to move X units of business, my 20%, I'm not going to change it anymore.
So that's what we've been doing to an extent. But it's like, okay, we know we're going to order 25 of this part per month, right? Whether it's an order of 100 at a time, whatever. And we kind of keep that cadence. But the thing is, if we're doing a large publicly traded company and they want 6, sets of units, we might blow through half that inventory in a single shot. And, it's one of those kind of black swan events where there's not a good way to really set it up. But because we have the machines, because we have the files, and because we machine everything internally, we just go and have our own machinists, run a production run, using usually our automation systems if it's a run more than say 50. And that's how we've been kind of accounting for those fluctuations. But, on the things that are kind of stable inventory, we've been aiming to keep kind of the ability, for instance, to make 50 spindle grippers on hand, because we know that we kind of have. Okay, so I'll rephrase. We kind of want the ability to make, 50 at the top of the Kanban. So like when everything's full, and 25 of, every, kind of spindle gripper, $2,000-ish product, in the ability to make 25 on a moment's notice range. And that's enough buffer that, we can at least allow the vendor 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay. Because if you set up a long enough blanket PO, because I did this when I was at Rings with the couple suppliers that there's one that we kept there. We said, all right, we're going to purchase X number of units per year. I will purchase a minimum of that. what I expect is you to carry X in inventory for us and release these on a quarterly basis. And so what we ended up with was a lag event. So then they'd always have X% still in inventory. And if I surged through, they just rebuilt their inventory. So we got that pipeline back. But it was a long-term contract. You have to be willing to, communicate with those vendors.
And I think part of what's hard and part of the reason I'm skeptical is like, as a company, like we really have, innovation like in our blood. Like almost like all the people I've hired, like they either run a machine shop, own a machine shop. Some of them have CNC machines in their garage. I really hire the people who are obsessed with CNC machines.
Yeah.
Just like me.
It was awesome. They're passionate.
Yeah. But part of that is like, okay, take the spindle grippers. And I'll caveat this for anybody listening by saying, hey, like I don't know when this is coming out. So, don't, I'm not going to promise, like we try to get everything to, 250,000 to 500,000 cycles before we release it. But we're basically redesigning kind of our core product offering, the grippers now from the ground up, because the grippers, I want to have a higher force variant. I want that variant to be, smaller in the actual spindle. And I want it to be more universal for more machines. And, in so doing, probably eventually it's going to replace the majority of the kind of core gripper body product line.
Makes sense.
And the question now is like, well, in that redesign, I've got $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 of inventory that's existing. When do I release that? Where do we go? And I've kind of taken that as, well, first off, I need to slow the R&D cycle down. And I'm going to launch this now 4 or 5, 6 months out. And, try to do it when we're, I don't know, have $10,000 of inventory to lose, and maybe we can clear and sell the old variants of the grippers.
Yeah. That's a solid strategic move. I mean,
but then we have the other problem of we still have to support the products that we've built. So I'm kind of like, well, I don't believe in fully retiring a product. So either I need to commit to, if someone has a problem, I just swap it for the new variant, or I commit to, we're going to carry some inventory forward into the future.
Yeah, that's an interesting, how long are you going to support your products too is going to be the other question. I mean, GM doesn't support everything to be so. Michael shouldn't be expected to support everything in the perpetuity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of what's hard too, is like, we kind of said, okay, our EOS core values are like, integrity is one, and world-class customer service is one. And with that comes like, well, if you have a spindle gripper, you spend $2,000 on it, like, and you get it it's 2 years past. And I tell you, you can't buy a rebuild kit, go buy another $2,000 gripper. That would piss me off if I was the shop, right? So like from my perspective.
How many times did you get your money back?
On what?
Say you spend $2,000. I mean, and then how much is it going to cost you to carry your inventory? I'm just walking through. So customer perspective, perspective. So now how much is it going to cost you to carry the inventory to you potentially to say, all right, you're one of our legacy customers. Thanks for supporting us when we were still figuring our stuff out. I'm going to sell you this at cost. I'm going to sell you our new unit at cost because you wore it out. And you just have a cascading event of how old it's, or if you have a less 2 years of rev or something, I don't know what you'll end up with, but you could do that. I mean,
luckily the parts, like if they didn't get crashed, they kind of should last forever. Right. So I think my kind of intuition is when we do finally roll out the replacement, maybe in kind of early mid 25, that maybe we keep 25 to 50 of every single product SKU on a shelf somewhere, and that conversation becomes like, okay, well, less than 3 years, we just if we can't give you a service kit or a rebuild kit, or the part if something broke because it was a design flaw, then we'll just replace it with the newest variant. And if we can, we just send them the replacement parts.
Something to be cognizant as well about on releasing new products. Careful how you share it, because otherwise customers are going to wait till mid 25 to buy that new one. So just
for sure. Yeah. And
yes, just don't pump that we've got a new one coming in 25 on your social, because you could bring all your sales to a screeching halt. There's several.
I mean,
that are bad.
That's the thing though, is the I, most likely it'll probably actually be an additional SKU. I'm not sure because they are considerably more expensive for us to build. So, it might be like, okay, well, here's our $1,100 through spindle air cooling gripper. Here's our rotary bypass gripper. That's $2,000. And there's a good chance that this one's going to be $2,500, $3,000. I don't know yet. Because, we're in the early stages.
Okay.
So I'm very much not committing to anything. Please my grippers.
Good, better, best. Is that part of your goal to start? Is part of your goal to offer like a good, better, best model? So if
my goal is to, really, I've really become obsessed with the Good to Great book. My goal is kind of that hedgehog concept. Like we are the best in the world at in-machine automation grippers and grabbers and everything for automating within your CNC machine. Where it's not even a thought of like they're you best, first, and cheapest. And really I want all three. And I don't know how achievable that is, but I want if someone says in-machine automation gripper, I want them to think gimbal, right? And I literally want it to be like this is the only option that I would even conceive of because the brand X grippers are not built specifically for in-machine automation or 4 times as expensive. Brand Y grippers, can't do X, Y, Z. And that's where I want to get. And I feel like we do actually make the best grippers for in-machine automation right now, but I think they can be better. And I see that and I keep pushing. And that may, in some, we talked about ambition earlier, and it may be some of that issue. But I think there's further we can push, handle bigger parts more precisely. And, I think that's kind of why I'm resistant. Maybe I shouldn't be from a purely business perspective.
What are you resistant of?
Well, from a business perspective, I honestly don't even think there's a case for redoing the grippers, right? Because like to be honest, like sure, we can get on another 5% of machines where the overall gauge length is too large on our current models, but they work and they work really well. And we have an established process for them and we have them on tons of machines. But at the same time, I see that is like, fundamentally I'm a product guy and I'm a CNC nerd and I'm like, it could work better. It could grip harder. It could do more parts. And I just have this like urge to push.
Yeah, the innovator is sometimes the biggest pain or the biggest, what kind of holds back the growth sometimes. Be constantly or innovate on things where you haven't saturated the market with your current system and people love it because it's an awesome product.
Yeah. And, like, as you said, Matt, like you said, you want to be skeptical or cautious of, holding your cards close to your chest with your product releases because it might hurt sales. And probably 3 months ago, I would have said, next week, we're going to come out with this new product. And at least we're hitting a level of maturity now where it's like, okay, well, it didn't run $250,000 cycles, 500,000 cycles accurately, repeatedly. Then, we're not even going to talk about releasing. Coming from that perspective, like for all I know, this thing might never even make it out the door because it doesn't run reliably enough, long enough. But at the same time, for me, it's hard to contain like, my excitement for what we're doing. And it's kind of like, if I didn't share it, I would feel like I was holding something back. And I kind of bring the excitement with me.
Oh yeah. And that's what made me very excited about doing this podcast is the amount of energy you have. I really enjoy being around positive people that are just wound up about what they do, just excited about life. So yeah, that's what makes it fun. And it's same thing kind of goes for, I guess I didn't pay the electric bill. They shut the lights off. Everybody's wanting to hold ideas or general products from people. People have so many of their own things to worry about. I mean, that's our patent attorney is something I worried about, 15 years ago when I was first laying stuff. I was like, Matt, go tell everybody, go figure out how to make money. And when you've started figuring that out, let's patent all this stuff. And like, that's just a solid conversation because he's saying the same thing of like, nobody else is going to steal your stuff because they've got their own products, their own objectives of things to have working on. And somebody's going to try to might not even have the resources to do it because they can't take what's inside your brain.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing is, we've even had people be like, I can build a low gripper. You know how much money went into building that gripper? Like easily $100,000. And it's like, there's another one coming. There's an R&D pipeline for it. The someone told me a story about Gene Haas where they were talking about the Chinese like copying the Haas machines. And supposedly Gene said, no, like the machines are changing all the time. Like we're innovating them faster than they can even get the machine shipped to their, to their side of the ocean. And I think I kind of want to take that approach of like, first off, every business has its challenges, and like, it's hard to sell grippers. That's one thing that we've seen. It's like, you really got to educate the market, and eventually like there probably will be more competitors. And that just means that what we're doing is working.
You're spot on. I mean, that's why we're doing this podcast, is we're open to sharing inside our business, finances, growth goals, business objectives, because our goal is to just stay in front of the competition, or at least the people that support us continue to support us on the long haul. I mean, that's real.
Yeah. And at the end of the day too, like, people buy, the people inside a company. They don't just buy a product. They buy the story, the support, how they're treated. Even the like retirement thing of like, if we retire products, kind of where I'm coming from, of like, we'll always figure out how to make it right, especially if it's a design flaw or anything we could have done better.
Here.
But backtracking a little bit on the other side of the coin, what is your current approach to like patents and IP and that kind of thing?
Ooh, that's a broad one. So we have an attorney that I've known since college. Actually got to know him there. We've set up a solid relationship on, if we come up with ideas, he has flat rates for us. So there's certain things that I might just patent that might not always make sense. I'm going to hold back on some of that. Because you have your trade secrets, you have your patents. I'm mixed emotions on it. I think a lot of people can waste a lot of money trying to patent things that are easily drowned, or you just give up the sauce anyways, or misspend energy. Because at the end of the day, you got to spend your time or somebody on your team's time to go through the process.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
So, I mean, we have kind of a wide, like patent approach. Like, we pay flat rates for, provisionals and conversions too. Which can definitely lead to being overly aggressive, in terms of like what you're trying to protect. And I kind of have like a double-edged sword, of how I think about it. It's like almost like walking a tightrope, because, on the one hand, like just like you, like in terms of the business, like I'm a lifer. Like if, anything comes to, attack the business, to like buy the business, whatever, like the worst case scenario to me is like some giant, behemoth of a company goes and does exactly what we're doing, or, just infringes our IP, doesn't care because they can, pay for it at court.
You could plead longer at that point.
Yeah. I think that's the worst case scenario for me. And I think patents are at least kind of like some downside protection there, saying like, well, at least we have something that makes, I'd rather be bought out for a lot of money than to just be, stomped on. If we hit that worst case scenario. And I think part of the reason I'm even thinking about that is I really do believe so much in spindle grippers that it's like, I really think most of this in-machine automation BS with, robots in a box and, giant pallet changers, I think a lot of it's going to die, but it's just going to take time and market education and so on.
That's a comment. So what's robot in a box? I want to hear how you think that market's going to die.
Well, it depends on what. It's like, to me, if you have a small part where, and I define that as like 6 by 6 by 6 inches, fits in a curve vise. To me, if you're automating that with a robot in a box system, I don't care who the manufacturer is, or if you're automating that with, a pallet changing system, whether, it's 5, 10 pallets or one of these, fancy multi-level stacked ones. And, you don't have just endless money, assuming you actually need ROI. If you have kind of a normal machine, to me, it's almost always the wrong call if you want a company that grows, because the biggest thing with a spindle gripper is like, okay, let's say I have a one-op part. Okay, spend $5,000 and, put spindle gripper in a vise there, and then use the $150,000 you saved on not buying that robot in a box to buy 1 or 2 more spindles, right? Or hire operators, or hire engineers, or make something better. To me, like robots, they're so easily replaced because you already have a robot there. And I guess that's kind of why that fear is in my mind, that sooner or later, I think the OEM manufacturers are going to realize that they can't sell these robot in a boxes because spindle grippers and in-machine automation are becoming a thing. But I think it's going to take years and years before we get.
Out of all the markets, I'd say manufacturing is one of the slowest to move. I mean, we're still running PLCs from the 80s and people are still buying the same ones. Like,
Yes.
it's crazy on some of the things you go in and see. I mean,
Which is good because it means like we can get more market adoption by the time that happens.
Yeah, and people want to maximize what they've invested. That's really what it comes down to. Because if you spend $1 million, $500,000 on a piece of equipment, you want to depreciate that out and maximize the capital. But at the same point, I always like to use the line of, do you expect your salesperson to drive the same truck from the 80s?
Right.
So,
and a lot of it comes down to as well, like just how you think about things because everyone thinks about these like robot in a box systems as this big depreciable asset. And to me, like even with CNC machines, like, it's well known, like we're a Haas shop, mostly because we don't run heavy production. We run small volumes of industrial products with, tolerances that are never tighter than plus or minus a thou. And even now we're outsourcing more and more of those components so we can focus on what we do best. And kind of in that realm, like, let's be real, Haas's are machines that, really, if you're running a good business, you should be replacing at least every 10 years. They're not the best in class of every single thing. And I just view that as like, it's okay. Right. And I think a lot of people need to make that shift, even more so with automation. Like, look at how far robots have come in the last 10 years and cobots. And if automation is moving that fast, do you want to spend $75,000 minimum on a UR robot integration that you're going to depreciate over 10 years? Or do you want to spend, $5,000 to $15,000 on grippers, right? Like, to me, that's another very easy call because, even if the robots get that much better, how long is it going to take? How expensive is it going to be? And fundamentally, we're just selling a mechanical ecosystem that just works. Now, obviously, my problem is now convincing everyone else of that.
I don't think it's a hard convince. It's just a different equation. If people can convince, or if they convince themselves, their owners, operators, to buy $150,000 robot, that's a capital expenditure, and appreciate that over 3, 5, 7, 10 years. I think a gripper that they can not even appreciate, they just carry that through P&L over 1 year because the ROI did in less than a year, is a different calculation. That's the easier one. In my opinion, that should be something that team members are given the liberty to put on the credit card.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Maybe you need to do like 4 easy payments of $5,000 because a lot of people are allowed that.
We actually do that. The just built in through Shopify, it'll give you up to like $30,000 of financing, 0% APR over 12 months.
Yeah, that could be huge if you break it down, because a lot of people get budgets where they can spend $5,000 a month, no questions asked, and that's a loophole.
Oh yeah, we run into that all the time of like, or even like the really big companies that like, hey, we all have a $2,500 a day cap. So, we'll split a transaction because engineering wants to push it through across like 7 credit cards. Because of some, bureaucratic nightmare. So it doesn't have to go through purchasing. Like that's pretty normal.
Yeah, that's funny. And that's just a broken system upstream, in my opinion. Yeah.
And the bigger you get, the more these well-intentioned systems can start to break the actual process flow of improving things.
Well, that was a quick hour here. How much longer?
I know.
I feel like that was kind of a good segue almost.
I mean, we can wrap there. You're gonna be at IMTS, right?
I will be. We're going to be heading down Monday night. We're going to be on the floor Tuesday. So me and our machinist David will be walking around for one day. We've got a couple key areas that we want to hit up, a couple of machines we might drool on to just kind of dream, if you will, for the next things. We've got the one coming, but it's kind of figuring out what's next for us too. I think our next capital expenditure is probably on the E side of the business, but it'll be figuring out how that kind of plays out. Hopefully we'll buying some more stuff about this time next year that's under in the forecast.
We'll stop by the booth. Let's like grab drinks or something, chat for a bit.
Are you going to be available Monday night? I mean, we could,
it's our first show as a vendor, so I honestly have no idea what's going to happen. Like, how slammed are we going to be? How
is a set up, or how's that work for you?
I think we leave either Friday night or Saturday morning. And then Sunday is just all set up for us.
Yeah.
So we made like a 4x4x8 foot crate. We put all the stuff in it. We shipped it like, I don't know, like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And presumably it's, it's holding over right now in Chicago. And it kind of like reverse order everything, like, loading played from the back almost. And then we have to set everything up. And because we're in one of the 10x10 booths, the space and time frame is pretty limited, which is a little bit stressful when we have the whole, experimental demo robot that we built just for this application. But
it goes well. I mean, unless you made it something crazy. I mean, we've rolled in and set up in less than a couple hours. It's pretty easy. Cleaned out the booth, vacuumed it down, stuff like that.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, by crazy, you mean building a like scratch made CNC demonstrator robot in a week.
Yeah, it's all great two-sided or tough.
Yeah.
This last show was the first time we took any robotics or cart-based system, but it was on casters. You roll it around. Well, you got to wait for the end.
It's
That's
just,
fun part enough.
Uh.
You need to take a pallet jack, but
yep. Cool. Well, let's wrap there, Matt.
Yeah.
We'll talk more on Monday night.
sounds good. Look forward to it. Let me know where you're at so we can buy your drink.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.